There, now it's saving two places.
So I'm going to call this public hearing to order at 6:04. We are here tonight to discuss and get information about an automobile recycling business permit application proposed at 95 Hebron Road. The select board will take action on this permit application at the regularly scheduled meeting tonight.
What's the 31? You see, it was posted publicly, it was put in the newspaper. He sent letters to all the property butters. And then I guess I'll let Jerry give you a little rundown of what's going on. That way it's,
Yeah, what I do is I buy a lot of, not a lot, but as much as I can, of abandoned for vehicles that no longer run. And I take, if they have them, the catalytic converters out of them and sell them. I use the oil that comes out of the vehicles and the transmission oil, and I have a waste oil, and so that's all, everything's legit. And I eat my garage with that. So basically I eat almost everything. And the antifreeze goes to Basil Grill, who buys my converters and a lot, not all my cars, but a lot of them. And they take all, the only thing I can't use in my furnace is the antifreeze, and they accept it all. And I've even had a chance to last year's scrapyard and mechanic falls, the top of the buy it off me, but these people used me good on my scrap cars, so I looked into that. And that's, I mean, we do automobile repairs there already.
Okay.
And I have been doing that for forever, and I've actually been scrapping cars. I mean, it's nothing, I don't want to bring 50, 60 cars out that and not even 20. I mean, if I bring in 10, I haul 10 out. You know, I don't keep a whole bunch. And as far as tires, most of the tires, not all, but a lot of them, more so than not, are real good tires, and I sell them. And I don't have much trouble getting rid of them if I sell them cheap enough. And they're all tires that will pass the inspection. And that's, and the ones that I'm allowed to put 4 into each vehicle that I bring back to Basil. So I take the ones that aren't no good and throw them into that, right back into the car.
Fantastic.
So it works. It's not a big mess. It's not, you know, it's not like I don't want a junkyard. I just want to recycle. That's all I want.
I don't see the actual application in the here. Okay.
it might be the actual select board packet.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
No, that's okay.
I think I pulled it.
You know that, done it forever.
Oh, no, I,
Oh, yeah, it's in
yeah, I read through everything.
Yeah,
All looks good, but we need to have a public hearing, so here we are.
that's right.
do the double page to save paper and then it just gets confusing.
So Cameron, I see here that all of the notices went out to the abutters.
Mhm.
Did you hear back from anybody?
Nobody contacted the office.
Okay. So the information that you put in all looks solid, everything you've said makes sense. It sounds like you do really great work as far as recycling, reduce, reuse,
Clean up a lot of cars in this town too.
and that's important work.
Yeah.
There are a couple pieces to this application
Yeah.
that I don't see. And I just don't want any of us to,
Okay.
you particularly have somebody come knocking at the door saying, oh, you didn't finish this. So, Cameron, do you know? Do we, looking at 9, 10, 11,
So 9, he basically
Well-
just answered. As far as what happens to the fluids, when you drain them, I'm assuming you're draining them inside your garage.
That's right.
so do you want to? Do you want me to take notes and attach it
I get
to?
the video too anyway, so I'm gonna have to, just like their minutes, I'm gonna have to take notes of this.
Okay, because it says here, we have to attach the plan, so as long as after this meeting, it's,
I think it's great.
okay,
I can jot that up.
fantastic, It says that we need to address a description of the soils on the property.
No,
Well, it's all. Sand. It's not loam or anything like that, it's. Unless you go over into my garden or where my septic system is, then it's, I don't junk over that way, I don't do nothing with it.
Okay.
so it's not shoreline zone.
Okay, and a map, sand and gravel aquifer under the property and the source of information is, as you,
I got
Check
some
these.
too, when they were doing ditches,
yep,
and the state hauled in a lot, but it's all gravel.
okay,
So this checklist,
yep,
just gonna give you some backstory. Or this list was created, if you look at it, this is in 2003.
mhm,
The town voted on a junkyard. Automobile recycling ordinance, and it was rejected. So this application is based off of that ordinance that was rejected, so it just gives you kind of a generalized idea of what's required. I think I gave you 3715E. 4A. That outlines basically the primary things we need to worry about. Open structure, that's for hires, rotation permits. Operating standards within 100 feet of any water, fresh water. Within the 100-year floodplain over a map standing gravel aquifer. There's a map somewhere in here that shows you this.
like I said, I'm not
Oh,
questioning this, I just want to make sure we get it right the first time around.
Yep.
no, I understand.
He's not here. Conejo Lane, is that before you or after you?
That's going towards even,
Hebron, so. This is the aquifer. He's over here. So he's not. Near that. So there's the aquifer, what was the other one? Somebody wants to make sense of these soil maps.
I can tell you that when I moved in there, it was all big boulders and rocks and. Mostly gravel.
That's hydro soils. Highly erodible soil.
But that was all right.
Feel like the guy up there with boards for the presentations. And the soils in his area are not highly erodible land and not very good, so.
And the source of this information are the town maps, because that needs to be stated in the,
that were created by APCO
okay.
or put together by.
Do either of you find anything else in this that we need to make sure, information that needs to be included? That's fine.
The purpose of this is in order to, for him to get his state license, he needs to first get local approval.
Correct. With the location of the property, nobody else has a well within 300 feet, so that's not an issue.
They're going.
Ever grab the seat? Go for it. We're gonna kill us. Damn, was kind of desperate to ask, who took care of the building up the street here?
Public Works.
Really?
Yeah.
And no. Let's go. But with spark that.
We're in the middle of a public hearing. I don't,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
I figured you didn't know, so
6:30, he's like, oh, you haven't started.
Yes.
just so you know, no worries.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 6:30.
Yep, you're totally good. Yep, we do have a 6:30 meeting. We're almost done here. So it would appear to me as though everything's in order, and once Cameron has typed up the information from this meeting and attached it, all the information
Okay.
requested for the application looks to be in order. Is there anybody out there who would like to make public comment? Do you have any questions for us?
The only question I would have. Now. Should I come down here and get a piece of paper? Some point saying,
So once we get all of this done, and if they approve it in their meeting,
okay,
I will reach out to you and let you know when it's ready, because you're gonna need a copy of that and notarized
yeah,
form to send to the state. To do your state stuff.
okay,
So I'll give you a call sometime this week, tomorrow or the day after, and let you know for sure
sure,
when you can come in.
We have to wait till the meeting at 6:30
So we can also.
to make a decision on this, but so the decision will be made tonight, and Cameron will get that information for you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you for all the good work that you do.
Yeah.
Further comments, I will bring this public hearing to a close at 6:19.
And I'm just gonna mute this until we start at 6:30.
Thank you. So my son called me from Virginia and said, Mom, you have to use the gavel to open and close the meeting. I'm going to watch the meeting. That's what you do. So I'm going to.
I love that. I got that.
I will not gavel you.
I told him to be nice and I said, I won't be nice. That gavel is maybe.
Are we all set, Cameron?
As long as the kid doesn't die.
I think we're good now. Yep, there we go.
Gotta do it harder. You go right ahead. You go good. All right, I'm going to bring this meeting of the Buckfield Select Board to order at 6:31. And we have a quorum. We have no old business. Or new business. Would somebody like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
Cam, do you have like a little overview of the KRT progress report?
It's all on, it's all good.
So. Make your motion, your second, and then I'll.
So I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
So I reached out to KRT and asked them for an update. So the public knows, I did post this on the packet online, but the data collectors have inspected. About 226 properties to date. This was a few days ago. They were up today as well. Still on track to meet their deadlines, which I don't have to break down right here, but basically it's ongoing. You receive phone calls about people on people's property and wanting to know if it's legit. Yes, they're all the assessors or field collectors have badges that say assessing office with their photo, and then their cars have magnets on the doors that say assessor's office. So if you see that, it's not somebody trying to steal anything from you. That's who they are. I did ask for an update on the fire truck as well from Greenwood. They've had some roadblocks with some of the supply chain. Once he gave us an example of the frame arrived without 70 of the necessary holes pre-punched. I did ask him for a firm, like when are we going to be done? He said it's his understanding that the truck will be done and fully operational by the end of October. So that's where we're at with that. And then just for informational purposes, after what Martha Cadavenus had brought up after the last meeting, I figured I would give all of you the updated legalese on tax acquired property and the process that it needs to go through. So I include that for you as well.
That was about the materials you gave us were about as clear as they could be. Thank you for giving multiple sources. It helped to make sense of those muddied waters. Is there any other discussion or questions about the consent agenda? Okay. So the motion is to approve the consent agenda as written. I'll call for a vote.
Celia, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I. And the motion passes. Okay, next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 5th, 2023 Select Board meeting. I move that we approve the minutes of the September 5th Select Board meeting.
Someone's here.
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay. So discussion, are there any corrections to the minutes as they were distributed?
Can we? Celia, have you been here?
It's majority vote of people for it.
Yes. So I read through and didn't see anything that needed to be corrected. Okay, with no further discussion, approval of the September 5th minutes, I'll call for a vote. Sandra, aye. The minutes are approved. The next item of business is the automobile recycling business permit, Hebron Road. Would someone like to make a motion concerning that?
I will make a motion that we approve the automobile recycling business permit for Hebron Road.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion to approve the business permit. Is there any discussion? Is Sally made the motion? Okay, with no discussion, I will call for a vote to approve the automobile recycling business permit on Hebron Road.
Celia, I.
Heather, aye. Sandra, aye. The motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have responsible pet care contract.
I will make a motion that we accept the responsible pet care contract.
That's written. So something that. We have a motion for the responsible pet care contract. Is there any discussion? Cameron,
There's only one signature line on here, so do you want? Do you think it would make more sense to make a motion to allow me to sign it, or you make a motion to allow one of you to sign it? Just to be clear.
so I am going to break protocol and perhaps ask a question. Can I amend her motion or does she need to amend?
When the motion is made and someone has seconded, the motion's on the table, anyone can amend the motion.
Okay, thank you. I move that we amend the motion on the table to state that we allow Cameron to sign to accept the responsible pet care contract.
Second that.
Okay. Discussion on that motion. Public comment?
Question. I think it was the last meeting that Cameron informed us that animal control officer.
This is not the animal control officer. This is the responsible pet care contract, which is the
Shelter.
shelter that we use.
Aren't they somehow connected or no?
Yes and no, but this is something totally different.
The animal control officer may need to send an animal to the shelter. But the two are not, they may work together, but the two are completely separate issues.
Thank.
I didn't hear that last piece, but okay, I didn't need to, okay.
Some of the background materials on this online, so what was that?
Yeah, you post a draft packet of the agenda on the website. And he also has copies of it up here as well.
So
I'll make it.
No worries.
So we have worked, to answer your question, we have worked with the responsible pet care in the past. And it's my understanding that
The only difference in the contract is the per capita, which it actually went up at the beginning of last year. Due to the price increases and everything else anyway, so it's currently at. This contract's for $1.45 per capita based off the 2020 census for dogs and $28 per stray cat that is delivered to the Humane Society by the municipality. Billing for dogs is semi-annually and felines, it's on a monthly or quarterly basis depending on, I haven't had it.
And it's your judgment that this is the best company to continue working with. You don't feel that we need to.
Where else were you gonna go?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they like the only option?
Right.
It's usually it's by the county.
Yeah.
And we're in Oxford County, they're the ones in Oxford County.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? Okay, a motion on the table, please make sure that I word it correctly, Cameron, is to allow our town manager to sign to accept the responsible pet care contract
That's right.
as written. I'll call for a vote.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I. And the motion passes. Next on our agenda is a municipal quitclaim deed tax acquired property. Slowly, I will ask someone to make a motion. So allow Cameron to do this paperwork, that's fine.
Am I making a motion to accept the claim deed?
And then they'll just go.
I will make a motion that we accept the municipal deed for 131 Southfield.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the municipal quitclaim deed, tax acquired property at 131 South Hill Road. Discussion. Cameron, would you like to give us some information? Please.
2 or 3 meetings ago, I came to you about this. I wrote sent out letters to those properties that were tax acquired. And offered them another 30 days to come and pay this. This property owner did come in and paid everything current, so everything's paid off, they have $0 balance.
Fantastic.
I need to go get my notary's. I'll bring it back.
Question, yes. Or comment.
Question. When somebody hasn't paid their taxes and we send out a lien and a certified letters, whole process. And then they come in. They pay the back taxes, but then we also pay an administrative fee, liens. Certified letters and all that, or just our taxes.
Everything.
All fees and taxes, everything has been paid.
Thanks.
Well. Is there any other discussion? I'm glad you wrote that final letter.
We got his correct address now too.
Fantastic. Okay, with no further discussion, I will call for a vote on the municipal quitclaim deed tax acquired property at 131 South Hill Road.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I. The motion passes.
Yeah. Says March.
Oh my God. And then.
Sorry, at the end of the meeting, before you leave, I'll run over there. I'll like delete that line. Okay.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you for catching that. Better now than tomorrow.
Right.
Yes.
All right, next on our agenda, we have committee appointments.
I will make a motion that we appoint Megan Smith and Trisha Jack to the Recreation Committee for 3-year appointments.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint Megan Smith and Trisha Jack to the Recreation Committee, both with 3-year appointments. Any discussion? All right, with that, I'll call for a vote.
Azalea, I.
Another eye.
Sandra, I. The motion passes. Thank you, Megan Smith and Trisha Jack, for your 3-year commitment to the Recreation Committee.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the RSU 10 update. I'll make a motion that we have a discussion about the RSU 10 update. And setting up a meeting with people within the school. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. Okay. So Cameron, I think.
So this is sort of something that I started.
Yep.
I know board members as well as people from the public have repetitively asked for updates on school board, what's going on. I know a lot of people can't drive all the way over to Rumford when the meetings are out there. A lot of people don't like Zoom, but I reached out to the superintendent after I reached out to a former select board member a few times regarding the sign at the high school. I know it seems silly, but it's the first thing you see when you come in on Morrill Street. So I just inquired about whether or not it was on the radar to be restored or repaired. And then I sent a follow-up 45 days later, and I've since been contacted by the building and grounds person, but in the gist of all of this, the superintendent has offered to come to a board meeting and, discuss RSU happenings or whatever. So I was just looking for some dates that you wanted to invite her so I can reach out to her and let her know and see what works best for her so that you can come up with your questions and the public can come up with questions that they don't have to go all the way to Rumford to ask.
I think that's a great idea. I would also want to propose, given our in progress items, where am I?
And item number 1.
Yes, to improve communications with elected school board directors, that we invite our elected school board directors to that meeting as well.
I have my own personal take and I'm going to separate it from town manager take. So I'm just going to.
Thank you very much. Your thoughts?
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I'm just wondering when will we like to schedule it? Because the next 2 meetings we do have Zach from AvCog. So will we want to schedule those at the same time or will we want to push off until November to have this conversation?
This isn't something that needs to happen like tomorrow. And I wanted to give her as much advance notice as well, because I'm sure she's got. The board meetings are on what, Mondays every 2 weeks?
Sometimes they're on Tuesdays.
Well, their schedule's posted online, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So perhaps after we finish this meeting. Because I think perhaps later we're going to discuss some of the plans for future meetings. So at the end of this meeting, you can take the calendar and reach out to the superintendent and the school board directors and see what meeting dates would work best for them. And then hopefully you'll have that information back for our next meeting. And at that meeting, we can Pick one of those dates and hopefully it'll all come together.
That's the school coming.
God. I'm so my brain is so fried right now.
I have to do this right now, so just
Go down to.
Meeting schedule. So it looks like the only one they have on a Tuesday for the next several months.
So I was gonna suggest November 14th, but they have one.
Oh, that is a Tuesday. That's weird. Why would they highlight some for Tuesday? Oh, this is 22, 23 anyways. So you click on their calendar, it's not updated. So one of the questions that has been coming up is when are they gonna update the website?
okay.
Mine's
So-
more updated than that. I'm just teasing.
Okay, so we're going to leave this with
I'll try to get an updated.
reaching
And
out
I'll see both the school
to
board directors in the next 2 days and.
and reaching out to
So
Can I make a suggestion that we already know these next 2 meetings are busy? So the invitation might be that you would love her to come represent you at your next meeting after those 2 meetings, that she could pick the date of any Tuesday. If we give her the dates that we're doing business, she could pick this. That might be easier. to
So-
get her.
but beyond that, at the end of this meeting, after future things that we're going to discuss that may take up other meetings, you could take that calendar of available dates. Because I don't know if the meeting after the next 2 will be. But yes. Give them to them and see what works out. Yes.
Clarification is that the school board district reps that we elected will be here as well as the superintendent.
We will invite them.
I like that. Thank you.
Okay. No further discussion. We will move on to the next agenda item, special town meeting warrant, November 7th. 2023. I'll make a motion that we discuss the special town meeting warrant for November 7th, 2023.
I will second that motion.
All right, so Cameron, do you want to give us a status update?
So last meeting, I brought a draft version of the warrant, and then after discussion, I said that I would like to reach out to legal and get some input on those. I included legal's response, or not legal, MMA legal's response into the questions that I asked regarding those 3 specific warrant articles, which were the 2 about donations and the other one about fundraisers. And I didn't even attempt to try to come up with an option. I wanted the board to collectively come up with what you would like me to do, because I hate reading out loud, but just Cliff Notes version of this, basically Article 3 and 4, which were the 2 about accepting donations up to. I was basically told that that is in the municipal officer's purview, and you don't need a warrant article for the municipal officer one. And then basically, I'm not aware of any such legal authority and statute to put a town manager in this position to accept gifts, however. So I'm afraid I cannot recommend moving forward with the second article either, so. Pretty much wipes those 2 out. That said, unconditional gifts of services, materials and equipment rather than funds may need to be accepted by the legislative body. As they are in many instances donated with implied conditions rather than a blanket warrant article. However, these items are probably best accepted individually with authorization specifically tailored to the non-fiscal gift. Now that was about non-monetary stuff. So if somebody wanted to donate a truck to us, the town has to accept it, not select board. As far as non or unconditional donations of money, the select board can accept that. Lost my place. So really, this is probably one of the longest emails I've gotten from them. There's
It
a,
was a lot to unpack.
sent me a legal note. Right, gifts of money or property in trust, a gift of money or other property in trust must be submitted for acceptance at the next meeting of the municipal legislative body within 10 days thereafter. Municipal officers must send written notice of its acceptance or rejection to the donor, if accepted unless the trust specifies otherwise. Funds must be invested according to municipal investment laws, and only the annual income may be spent unless otherwise specified. Municipal officers serve as the trustees of the funds. The municipality fails to comply with the terms of the trust, the funds revert to the donor or donor's heirs. Donations of money, a donation of money to supplement a specific appropriation already made to reduce a tax assessment, to endow a municipal education fund, or to reduce permanent debt may be accepted by vote of municipal officers alone. So. I guess I keep a running list of any time you get a $25 donation and I bring it into an agenda item and you can approve it or deny it at that point.
That's financial gifts, but not
Right.
non-financials. That has to be.
Gifts of money, that first part I read was more like if somebody wants to donate money for like a scholarship fund or, somebody left the sum of money for, specific. Conditional gifts, a conditional gift for any specified purpose must be submitted for acceptance at the next meeting. Did I read that one? Yeah, I did. An unconditional gift of any type of property may be accepted or rejected by the municipal legislative body, except for assets conveyed to the municipality under the criminal asset forfeiture laws. I don't think we'll ever have to run to that. After it has been accepted, any gift of money to a municipality must be deposited with the municipal treasurer and may be expended only by a disbursement warrant approved by the municipal officers. Cash gifts, even for a specified purpose or project, should not be given to the official or committee in charge to be deposited in their own account or spent at their discretion, control of donated funds. Yeah, we wouldn't give money to anybody else. So that kind of breaks that down. That's posted on the website in that packet. So if you want to actually read the full document, I'm sure you don't want to listen to me read it. The other thing that came up when we were talking about fundraising, and I used rec as an example because obviously I'm involved in that. This is where I was like, I'm just going to bring this to the board and they can figure out what direction. So regarding the final article, my recommendation would be to draft articles establishing a reserve account for the department. There's a recreation field reserve. I don't know when it was established. I don't know what the actual warrant article read. Me personally, not knowing that stuff, I think it would probably be easier just to create the warrant articles to establish, even though they're already established, but to establish whatever reserve accounts that you wish to have. And then he further went to say, which states that well, this was for rec. And if you want to do it with like fire department, this includes fees though, which states that all revenues from fees and fundraisers received and held for the department's funding will be appropriated to the reserve account, and that the reserve account remains in effect from year to year until rescinded by a town meeting. That's the key. You can't tie up a future legislative body. So there has to be an out. They need to be able to either repeal it or vote against it or whatever. So when we were talking about doing that warrant article into perpetuity, can't do that. So,
But it can be worded that we don't have to vote on it every year.
so
We just need to make sure we have that wording that it can be.
So there's two ways you can do it. And it's still technically legal and right, so. We can create a warrant article for that specific to rec for this particular case. That specifies all this, it's clear, it's at town meeting, if it's approved, it's there, that's the purpose and whatever. Or. We can just determine. What we raise at the end of the year. And ask to take that specific amount of money like we have in the past and allocate it to that reserve account through town meeting vote. Either way will work, so we don't necessarily have to do anything for it, we just fingers crossed and hope that the community wants to support that. But that's basically. The two options he gave me on that. Aside from. Coming up with a revenue. Ordinance and taking it to the town and letting them vote on it. And having it be in the form of an ordinance, so. There's a bunch of different directions you can take on that, but that's what I came up with, and when I read it, I went. Oh, wait. Yeah. But where I don't know what that other rec department revenue account or reserve account was when it was established, what the terms of it were. And it may have been tied up with the playground donation, I don't know.
It was, you're looking at me, it was before.
It was before.
It's been there.
The other thing that I want to point out that came out of this is. Even if you put money into that account, so like, even if you took all registration fees. I was talking to Sandra about this today. Typically what we do when I project a budget for a rec is I kind of estimate how much we're gonna take in for. Registration fees for all three sports, and that's the number I throw there as proposed revenue. If you did have the fees go into that reserve account. At the next town meeting, we'd know, or we'd have an idea of about what went in, and you could take previous years and use that to offset. So you have a more concrete number of what was brought in as opposed to just shooting at the stars. But anyways, still an appropriation article would be needed to spend funds in the account each year, so it may be best to simply authorize in a budget article. The identified fees funded. My point being here. It sounds to me, based off this discussion, that. Spending money out of the reserve funds, we still need an appropriation warrant article at town meeting. Which doesn't seem to be what has happened in years past. So I'm bringing this to your attention now so we can rectify it. But that's where we're at.
So. I don't know about you folks, but I read through this and I understood the language. But the impact of this on how we do business. I'm feeling like I need to educate myself a little bit more because it would appear that the way. We've been doing things is perhaps not how we should be doing things going forward. I guess my understanding is that by the next meeting, we need to have any and all warrant articles for the next town meeting.
Right, for the special town meeting, it's November 7th, so you'll have to approve a warrant by then. At the end of the day, the only things that we need on that right now, in my opinion, is the selectman seat, elect a moderator, the selectman seat, and asking for approval for the money for all roads. This other stuff. It's not end of the world. I mean, it's obvious that now I have to bring all donations to you to approve, so that's been clarified. No action needs to be taken on that. I mean, this is something that's been voted on at town meeting so we've been doing it wrong for a long time, so. With that said, those are the three that need to be on there, and unless the board comes up with anything else before then, that's what I would plan on being on the warrant.
As a board, we've discussed the different departments having reserve accounts and I think those discussions are important and looking at how to do that, but I can't imagine that we're going to figure out not only what it is we want to do, but legally how to do it between now and the next meeting.
Right. One recommendation, and since I'm here and obviously my goal is to make sure that we're doing things the right way, I would say that at next town meeting, we revisit all the reserve accounts, and it sucks to have a bunch of warrant articles, but properly establish each one of the reserve accounts and possibly look at consolidating multiple reserve accounts for the same department and cleaning this up, because I mean, I don't even confidently know that any of these reserve accounts were established properly in the first place. And it would make me feel a lot better if I know that, hey, the town said do this and this is what it is, and now it's on the record and I know for a fact that it was done the proper way. But I mean, this email, reading through it, I was a little dumbfounded by some of the stuff that came out of it. I'm glad, but at the end of the day, it's like.
Now that we know better, we need to do better.
Mhm.
Comments from,
Yeah, the only other thing is that between now and the June town meeting, since you're not gonna do it forever. None of the reserve accounts can spend any money. So anything that you may have already planned or you already thought of in the budget, that they were gonna take money from those reserves accounts, can't happen. Because you don't have a warrant article stating that that money was there for that specific thing. So just keep that in mind, if you have. These departments have plans on spending some of that money, that's gonna tie that money up till June, which is what it is. But I think it's a good thing, especially as difficult as it is. The town has always put money in these reserve accounts on good faith that the board was gonna do what they said they were gonna do with this money. And for years they didn't. So this correction will lock it in. That if it's now gonna be put in there for such and such equipment, it can only be spent for such and such equipment, because it now will have been appropriated correctly through the legislative body, which it always has.
So to spin off what Martha just said, so essentially the way that this should properly go is when we do the budget process, if there's something that the reserve funds are going to be allocated for, it's included in the budget. And then on the revenue side of things, that revenue will be allocated from the reserve account properly to cover that, which would offset that cost. But yeah, it's Allison Wonderland.
so it. I'm not going to ask you to do this off the top of your head because we should know it too, and I know that I don't. Between now and the next meeting, we need to look at. Is there money in reserve accounts we were counting on taking or using between now? Or do we think we might need to between now and June?
The only money that was planned to come out of reserves was approved at town meeting, like the Damon Cemetery, the $3,000 for Damon Cemetery that received voter approval. Other than that, there's nothing planned and nothing can be spent until next town meeting, unless we have a special town meeting.
Nice save.
I thought she was diving off the door.
For any of you on TV that couldn't see that, we had an audience member dive and catch the door. Well done. Okay, so it would seem as of now, we know what the warrant articles need to be. And
I'll send you a copy tomorrow or the day after of what I basically just said, which is the three.
and
The board
we'll
can
have those ready to
at the next meeting,
vote on at the next meeting.
unless there's something I'm missing and anybody else wants to propose something else. That's what I'm gonna put on there for you to review.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want us to look at for warrant articles? Okay, doesn't appear that we need to take any action on that. Thank you, Cameron.
Cheers, made him put his life on it.
Well, in the long run, no.
How we should have always.
So I'm actually, while we're here, and so I typed this up as just an example to show like what you would have to do to establish a reserve account and then be clear about what it is. So this is on rec. It says to see if the town will vote to establish a reserve account for the recreation department. Revenue from recreation department fees and fundraisers will be deposited into this reserve account will be used to fund recreation department activities and acquisitions. The reserve account will remain in effect until it is rescinded by a town meeting. That is essentially what should happen for each reserve account. And I think right now there's probably 11 or 12. Can't remember off the top of my head. There's way too many. You know, there's 4 for 2 departments right now, and it's just so. Then you're gonna have to figure out the legalese on how to take the money that's in the current ones and put them in the right one.
So it would appear that we should add to our in progress items. Um. Something about. Reserve accounts. What wording would you like to? Research,
Proper reserve account establishment and
establish,
cleanup.
there we go, establishing. Correctly establishing reserve accounts. Or however you want to word that, that will make you happy. Any other discussion? Okay, moving on to other business. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we discuss the library trust.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to discuss the library trust, just to. Give some information, I spoke with. The town attorney. Is that his title? About the library trust and where we're at, because it's been going on for a super long time, and as I understand it. Part of the holdup has been. The back and forth with the state attorneys general. Because before this goes in front of the court. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If we have the approval of the state attorneys general, then the court is more likely to approve everything without question. And so the information was sent to the attorneys general, and then it was sent back, and it's done this back and forth. When I spoke to him, he said he had the final revision on his desk. I don't know if that means in paper or on his computer. That he would be sending it out either today or tomorrow. This was today that I spoke with him, so either today or tomorrow. And there were no assurances, but he felt relatively confident that he had included everything that he needed to include, and that everything was as it should be for the attorneys general to approve of it. And that as soon as that happened, he would then forward it to the court. He expressed a great deal of confidence that this would all be resolved, finished by the end of this year, probably much before that. So that's what he said. And he also, I asked him to please respond to Cameron's last email with that information, so then we have that documented as well. But it would seem as though we're coming to the end of this journey. Questions? Yes.
Curiosity has the best of me. It may be privileged, it may not be. Did he discuss or let either you or the town manager know what the issues were that have to be back and forth between each one? Just
I did not ask. I got the sense that it was just a matter of making sure that all of the materials were provided and questions were answered. How about if this time around there are more questions, I'll find out what those questions are. So we can all know what they are. So with a follow-up to this, I'm thinking that. Seeing as though the attorney feels pretty confident that his work is done, knock on Formica table, that we could begin the process of putting together what we need for his next project, which I believe is the cemetery trust, so we can move forward with the next piece. Question.
And why my curiosity got the best of me for that question I just asked you, is because we have a second one to send, like you just said. And if we could have an idea of what the problem was, and it's something that we could build a better packet to be sent to our attorney, it's gonna save us a lot of money between this back and forth, because talking $300 something an hour every time it gets back and forth, if we know what the packet needs to be, it would be much better for the town.
Yes,
And since how you said that, if there's another round of questions, I would like to know why it has to go to court.
Cameron.
Because the amount of money that was involved was over $100,000. I knew that answer from John's original email to the Attorney General back when he was here. It was a matter of the money. The cemetery trust was less than that threshold. That one does not need to go. But it just needs to be blessed by the Attorney General.
Yeah, the attorney general can break the library trust because of cost. The other one has the court has the judges rating. Yeah,
Place first.
the library one stands to before.
That was the court. The other-
Cemetery,
right.
the attorney general just approved it. Yeah. Well, anyway. Cute.
Any other questions with that? Okay, another item of other business. I would like to make a motion that we discuss the upcoming AvCog workshop or work we need to do.
Oh,
I will second that motion. Okay, discussion on the upcoming AvCog workshop work that we need to do. The community resilience self-evaluation and the community resilience partnership list of community actions was sent to us by Cameron, help me out, Zach. Asking that we complete this before we meet with him. I asked Cameron if he would give us all copies because I tried to print it out on my computer and it just wouldn't work. So I was just thinking that we could do this individually and it is at our next meeting.
Yeah.
it's before.
It's before the next meeting
5
that
o'clock.
we have a workshop, correct?
Yeah, it's in the meeting minutes.
October 3rd, we have a workshop scheduled for 5.
Not to end until. At least before, what did you, how was the verbiage?
6:15.
That was the other one, wasn't it?
Not to end before 6:15. Oh, that would be.
That's the public hearing,
Good.
the workshop.
No, it says, good, oh, you had way too many votes. 5:30, okay.
The workshop is for the select board and
So,
Zach, but then the public hearing,
On the 17th at 5.
that's. We want to make sure that goes long enough so everyone has time to get here and participate. They want to. But I just thought it would make sense rather than coming to the meeting and doing this, that we all, yeah, that was his suggestion in the email. So that we complete this individually. I don't see any issues with us sharing completed documents with each other as we go through this process.
just send them to me and I'll.
There, honestly, there isn't, and you come up then. So that way, it's, to me, you know, it's less work on here. there is no reason that select board members, as long as there's no discussion, are allowed under whatever, to transfer information. This, it was asked and it was answered by one of the last boards. Because there was always an issue of, hey, I have this, I want to share it. So I cleared that up.
So. Because it may very well be that. You have something and. It's useful for me to learn from you kind of thing, so as we finish this, we can share it with each other. So then you don't have to deal with it at all. In all your free time. Anything else we should do before?
I think she's leaving.
Is she waiting or?
Yes, she's got her hand up.
Judy?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest regarding resilience, it would be interesting to know how many heat pumps have already been put into town in various homes and businesses. I think that shows a measure of how people are interested in resilience. I don't know how you'd gather that information, but it would be helpful to have.
I agree. Maybe when we have our workshop, we can discuss ways in which we can collect information from the community, and then we have a public hearing where hopefully people who have an interest in this will participate and share their thoughts and what they've been doing. Okay. Next item of other business, I'd like to make a motion that we establish a special committee with the purpose of gathering information and clarifying operational procedures of the swap shop.
I will second that motion.
Discussion. So I was looking through some grant opportunities and I saw some money out there that made me think of the swap shop. And then as I started looking at how we could write that grant or what was needed, and I started asking questions, I realized that there isn't a whole lot of information as to who runs the swap shop or who's in charge of the swap shop and how things are done. And there are phenomenal volunteers and people that give lots of time, money, time and energy to making this work, and appreciate everything that they're doing. And it's both community members of Buckfield and Sumner. Cameron already started looking into things she didn't have to do. Right. If you were sitting in here, I'd be glaring at him. But I was hoping that we could form a committee, including people who volunteer at the swap shop or anyone in the communities who are interested in this, and gather all the information that we can about anything that's already established for practices and how things happen. And I saw some information on social media about fundraising in order to pay some bills, but I was curious about what those bills were or and I fully support fundraising for the swap shop, but making sure that everything is as it should be. So that was my thought, was to form a special committee, but I don't know if people have a better idea on how we can make sure all the information is gathered and accurate. What do you think?
think that a committee could be a good idea? Is this not something that we could solve in a workshop if we are able to schedule everyone who volunteers there and select at the same time? Would that be easier than forming a special committee?
I think having a workshop would be great, but there's a lot of. I can't seem to find the information, and I do not want Cameron to spend any more time digging up information for this, so. Unless the three of us want to spend a lot of time researching, I was thinking maybe people who are invested in the swap shop could do that research. But
Oh, yeah.
if you're up for it, you go.
And if they're fundraising, that going into somebody's personal. Paying for things for the shop, they don't have a music account, swap shop.
I have no idea how the swap shop is established,
No.
all volunteers, yes.
The swap shop's part of the recycling, Sumner, Buckfield recycling. So. If I was thinking about this, it's not Buckfield's responsibility, it's the Sumner Buckfield responsibility. This might be something that you should be bringing up at that next meeting with Sumner and Buckfield. Because technically, all the monies, all of that, that's a separate entity that we're kind of a part of. They 35%, we have the other percent of it. So they have to help us with some of those decisions. That money goes to them and then comes to us. It's kind of complicated. So if we end up forming a committee and doing everything, we still have to kind of have some approval by Sumner to make sure that those funds go into the right spots. I mean, I know we run it and we had part of that establishment that we ran it, they participated in it.
So when you say we run it,
Please, please.
Have management control.
We manage control. There is a. It's a contract. I'm trying to think of the
It's an agreement.
agreement. Yeah, so I don't think it was a contract. It was kind of agreement that was between the two towns. That gives you very specific, like this is how it runs, this is what's expected. And maybe this committee should be part of that meeting and not a burden on one more committee on our town with swap shop.
So. Yes.
I agree with what Martha said. I like your idea, Azalea, about a workshop, but I think it does have to be a joint workshop and it should be after the research is done. I remember specifically in the past that this has come up at least twice in the last 25 years, and that there's a swap shop policy that's been agreed to by both Buckfield and Sumner, and that there has never been fundraising specifically, and to my knowledge, there's never been fundraising. However, there is a cash donation box, and that money in the past has been applied to the electricity, either just for the swap shop or the transfer station itself. And that's in the past, it's been an issue on the budget committee and during budgeting and how this money was accounted for and appropriated. So my personal recommendation is when this happens, that gets set. What happens to the revenue that is generated from donations, but there has never been a personal or town or Sumner town fundraiser for specifically for squashing.
so this is why I'm bringing this up, is I was hoping that someone other than myself might be willing to chip in to gather this information about where this money goes, and to the best of our knowledge, there's one bill that,
You're talking about where the donation money that goes to the swap shop?
well, if we have a fundraiser, so then that fundraising money,
That's that money goes right into, I mean, it gets receipted here and then it gets deposited into the Buckfield Sumner solid waste checking account or savings account. It's all, and that's the frustration is, I've heard things said that, this money is, or there's an account specifically for the swap shop, everything from that to donations go towards paying the electric bill, and that's what made me go, wait a minute, we budget for the electric bill, there's only one electric bill at the transfer station, and we pay for it out of the budget that is split between Sumner and Hartford according, so it's, I mean, that you have a copy of the, what is it, volunteer guidelines or whatever it is, that's the only real document that I have going for how it's run, because you came to me asking me questions and I had no idea how to answer you.
Right, Azalea,
Judy is having here. Very well.
thank you. Judy,
Yes, I'd like to recommend that you interview two persons. One, I believe she is still with us, Mary Standard of Sumner, who really put the swap shop together and ran it for a number of years before Dwayne, who is of Buckfield, took it over. I think you'd get a lot more information from those two because they're totally familiar with the workings.
thank you. Yes. Good.
Again, back to the remix of revenue and the accounting. When you see the audit at the end of the year, you will see that this transfer station has its own separate audit. Because it is a joint 65-35 operation, and I believe in that audit, there is a line that says swap shop. So that might be a place to look. The second thing, in addition to what Judy Burgess said, Linda and Bill Glass also ran the swap shop within the last, I'm gonna say, up until COVID, I thought they were doing it, and Dwayne's kind of on the side, but they might be other people that you could reach out to as well. I'm willing to go through my 7 file boxes and see if I can find any information on swap shop happened.
I know that there have been some posts on social media that some community members have come to me about. With some concerns about people at the swap shop making determinations on what can and cannot be dropped off at the swap shop. For instance, it was asked, I may be incorrect, but my understanding is that it was asked that no spring, summer items be dropped off at the swap shop now. And there were people feeling that they had spring and summer items they wanted to take to the swap shop. And if they couldn't take them to the swap shop, they were just going to throw them into the dump, which defeated the purpose of the swap shop. So the question is just, how are these decisions made? Is it by the entire group? Is there someone in charge? And I just don't know what the answers are. And it's saying in here that the donations will assist with the costs associated to maintain the swap shop. So if all of the money that goes in the box comes to Cameron, and I believe that's how that works, if they never come and ask, it seems that all of that money goes into the account, but then what are their operating costs and how do they pay for them if all the coming here? I just don't know.
And I think given the earlier clarifications on quote unquote donations, the board will be more in tune with what's going on now that donations have to be approved and accepted, but.
And they have a fundraiser coming up, so.
Who's they?
The swap shop,
Swap shop.
there are volunteers on the swap shop who are holding a fundraiser for the swap shop.
Who's in charge of it?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm concerned about that because I don't know, are they Sumner residents, Buckfield residents, where's the money going?
So this is what we need to find out.
All
And I
Dwayne.
think there are people volunteering, but
I think it's great too, and I love to swap that, don't get me wrong. I think
Exactly.
It serves its purpose of saving the town money and helping out town folks. I shop this for what shop,
I do too.
you know, so.
So my question to the rest of the board is, how do we gather this information? Suggestions?
It's like,
Yes.
so aside from Dwayne. There used to be like a little volunteer sheet that you filled out with your name and phone number and all that contact information. I don't even know who the volunteers are. I don't know how many there are. I did reach out to Dwayne, but I haven't gotten a response back yet, so.
How long ago did you reach out to us?
Last week. I mean, aside from me going down to the transfer station waiting.
I'm not asking you to do any of this. I don't want for you to do any of this at this point. And I don't necessarily feel good about putting a lot of pressure on a volunteer.
Well, I think it's fair to talk about the summer situation too. I mean, everybody get your hand up, so.
So I was gonna say. You talked about going to a Sumner meeting. Can we bring it up during public comment? At the Sumner Select Board meeting,
What should we bring up?
that we need a meeting with them and we want this included in the meeting with them.
Definitely, it should be a part of the meeting about solid waste. But maybe the select board members there have more information about the swap shop, but I'm not sure that they do. Yes,
So where I was going with that was obviously anybody that knows what's going on, Sumner has 3 brand new selectmen. There've been a lot of changes over there. That's why a lot of these solid waste meetings have been pushed off until whenever we can do it. I do have I've been in communication with the new chair of that board. Which is good, because now I'm actually communicating with them instead of just kind of sitting here without any response. And I did ask them if it would help if any of you were, of course, remember, if more than 2 of you go. You gotta post it, but if it would help if I attended just to kind of get some insight. Or an idea of when that next meeting could be. So I'll keep you posted on that. Before it was emailed to the town clerk, then the town clerk had to take it to the board at their next meeting, then the board would let her know what to tell me. I think now it's just a little bit easier to just be able to. Kind of make sure they're getting the message. But I know that the last several months have been pretty messed up over there, so. Hopefully moving forward, this will be a lot easier.
yes,
It sounds like, if someone could compile a list of questions of what info you want to find out, seems like that would be a good first step, so that then whoever, it might be easier for someone to volunteer and say, yeah, I'll chase down this info once I know what you want. And I wasn't sure if that was related to looking at potential grant money either. Did you mention grant related to this or something previous?
I found a grant,
You did, yeah.
possibly up to $40,000. For that could be used.
Yeah.
To support the swap shop or the work that we do at the swap shop, but I would need to have accurate information that's what started this, to fill out.
So that grant could be another form of getting the questions that you need. You could actually use the questions on there as a template of what info you want to actually collect. And then if there's anything missing off there that you still want to know about funds, and you can add additional questions. Starting with a list of questions might help someone get the answers you want.
Right. So I will come up with a list of questions and perhaps at the next meeting, people will have ideas on how we can gather that information.
So
Yes.
you had mentioned a workshop. Is that a formal like meeting?
Yeah, it's like it's, we post notice, we let it's happening. Workshops, technically, the public is not supposed to make a comment unless the select board invites them to, and there's no dedicated time for public comment. So perhaps a public meeting would be more appropriate than workshops. Just a word that came out of my mouth at the time, but it sounds like the first thing we should do is compile these questions, so we have direction we're headed in.
And then
We can collect the information either by going directly to the swap shop, catching some volunteers, or by posting a public workshop.
or like a combination where you can invite the volunteers, if you can get a hold of the fellow who's coordinating the volunteers, and then also invite the Sumner folks who have an interest.
Right,
So that combination in conjunction with your list.
Yeah.
And then taking it from there, there's like a committee
right.
meeting. So I guess setting the date and the fellow who's coordinating the volunteer might be one of the key. Sort of stakeholders. So it's something that works for that person.
So. I'm thinking, let's continue this conversation at the next meeting after Cameron and perhaps some of the board members or a board member attend the Sumner Select Board meeting. And then at the next, our next board meeting, we can look at setting a date for regular public meeting, public hearing.
Public hearing or workshop?
Well, if we have a workshop, then we can just invite anybody who attends to speak, correct?
I mean, you can invite the public to speak at a workshop. I mean, at a workshop.
Okay,
It's just not required.
okay. Does that work? Yep. Okay. And then the final thing I had, sorry about that, I'd like to make a motion that we discuss having a workshop with members of fire and rescue to begin discussing or item number 4, fire and rescue department integration.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we already have activities going on for October 3rd and October 17th. Help me out, Cameron. November 7th is our special town meeting.
Mhm.
Is that also where we would normally have a select board meeting?
I would recommend that the board reschedule that meeting.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we reschedule the November 7th meeting to November 14th, 2023.
I'll second that. Sorry.
that's all right. So for discussion on moving the November 7th meeting to the November 14th. Should we then also move the next meeting? And can we put both of those in the same motion? So instead of going 14/21, we go 14/28.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll. Or do you want to?
Yeah, when is Thanksgiving?
Thursday.
Thanksgiving is, Thursday, the 23rd, so it'll be the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I will amend my motion, to reschedule the November 7th meeting to the 14th, as well as the November 21st meeting being rescheduled to the 28th.
I'll second that one.
Okay, discussion. Cameron, does that work in your schedule?
Yeah, I block off Tuesdays. Well, soccer's over by then anyway, so yeah, we're good.
Okay. So I'll call for a vote on moving the November 7th meeting, select board meeting to November 14th. And the,
Nice, yeah. There you go.
keep me on the right month, please, November 21st meeting to November 28th.
Oh, no.
Azalea, aye.
Other eye.
Sandra, aye.
Tired.
Okay. So we've established when those meetings are. So back to discussion of a workshop. Is that something we want to do on the same night as a meeting, or perhaps on a different night? I'm thinking it might be best to hold the workshop at the fire rescue station, so we're at their house.
Yeah.
So
Your thoughts?
I've reached out to both the fire and rescue chief. The fire chief. Said most of the firefighters are available after 7.
Okay,
I haven't spoken to Stacy yet. To get what would work best for them. That crew might be a little bit different because of the. Shifts that they work at their other employers, but I'll let you know when that is, but 7, it sounds like after 7, I know that's late, but. That seems to be what's best for. Fire at this point.
okay. Yes.
An
Oh, yeah,
EMT,
he's on rescue.
yeah, we have with rescue Wednesdays, twice a month, 6 to 8 already scheduled. For a meeting,
Okay,
and so sometimes they schedule a training for the second hour. Of a 2-hour meeting. And then there's also just. A training on those nights, so the Wednesdays when there's already something scheduled, they. Have, like we had Officer or Sheriff Nicholas come in and do some training with us and. Talk to us about his sort of canine procedures, what we've been interactive in town, so that can be a good opportunity or venue that's already sort of. People expect.
so perhaps the second half of one of those meetings, it isn't already.
Work and integrate really well from the beginning half, but I think, yeah, typically people. Later,
So you're not adding another meeting into people's,
it could,
Yeah.
just depending on how much is on the agenda, the
Right.
first hour might work too, but. People might turn out for like a hotter issue. With pressing concerns, thing like this, and so the second hour might.
well, I was just thinking if 7 PM is better for fire and you
Right.
folks meet from 6 to 8, maybe at 7 o'clock, it could 7 to 8.
Of course, Wednesday sucks for you, right?
So. Make it work, or, Bob will be there, there'll be a partner.
Well, after November 7th, we should have another select too.
Right.
It'll be collaborative.
So. Perhaps look at dates in November. For that workshop. And then that'll work best for them. And then at our next meeting. We can
All right, send us dates.
see if one of those dates works. Or at least some of the select board. To just have that workshop. Yes.
Scheduling a lot of workshops, cool, love it. Recommendation, throwing it out there. Each one of these workshops should have a lead person. There should be an outline for the workshop, so that it can be very specific what gets talked about, nothing gets added in. The fire rescue is going to be a long and arduous process. It is not easy to do. It doesn't matter, even if they agree that they would like this to be done. You have very separate entities that have multiple fire associations, state rules, federal rules for each one of those, Maine State EMS, fire, NFPA. To combine those two, to find out, figure out the policy, those two things have to be combined. I mean, it's huge. So the one workshop where we're gonna have all fire and rescue in there. My fear is that you're gonna be overwhelmed with like questions. It would be better that you have a very specific outline. If you think it's gonna be an hour meeting, 3 things, 3 topics, that's all you're gonna be discussing, is those 3 things. And seeing if you can knock some of them off. And then the next one be another 3 things. There are a lot of checklists out there, there are a lot of templates out there to combine fire and rescue. There was a fair amount of research done into it at least 10 years ago. But then we decided it just got knocked down. So some people out there do have, I have a certain amount of information I will give. But it really should be that one person from the board become the leader that has to be doing it, because if you don't come prepared for these meetings and these workshops. You're gonna be overwhelmed when people ask questions, you're not gonna have any idea, because we as select people don't run those departments. We don't know enough about NFPA, we don't know enough about EMS and those are regulations. And when somebody asks a really, but selectively used to think it's a stump the chump question. It wasn't a stump the chump question, it was a legality question that you weren't prepared for. So that would be my recommendation. If you're gonna put the workshops, each one of these workshops, whether it's for fire and EMS, or even this one, swap shop subjects, amount of time, and you stick to it, because they will overwhelm you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes.
I'd say. We'd sort off what Seth said about the swap shop and coming up, well, what are the questions that you need the answers to? I've changed through my conversations with employees, as well as. Working in that atmosphere for 7 years like I did. I think the first thing the board should do, and be open and honest, we're just gathering questions and concerns. Hear that. Document that, so that when you start working through the process, you can get those answers, and then you can address those concerns. Through the process. Just my take. As taxpayer. It's nice when you know the questions before you get to the,
It's 100. If I say again, it's 100% correct. Again, without making you feel in any way, shape, or form that this is a discredit to the city in front of us, it is not. It is past practice that I'm getting. When you're a board member and a packet gets sent to you, it's expected from the public that you're reading the packet so that you have an understanding of it here, so that the question can be asked. The board should be able to answer the questions. It should not be left to the town manager to answer them. So when a select team gets together, it's better to have one person kind of lead it. Because sometimes you are gonna have to look through and be like, hey, I got like this much info, I kind of understand it, but Seth, could you do it? Or, but when we see like deer in headlights, it becomes very hard for us to want to vote on the warrant article. It's very hard on us as a taxpayer to think that we're moving forward. We just seem to be falling in the mud, because every time we do something, there is gonna be a rabbit hole. That poor Cameron gets set down and he's like, oh. And as much as it sucks, it is good because we can correct it. But it's always 2 steps forward, 6 steps back, 2 steps forward, 6 steps back. We have to be more prepared.
So Martha, I guess I will ask you, and perhaps not in this setting, but perhaps you could meet with each of us, because I'm left with that statement sitting here wondering, do you feel that I'm not prepared?
And that's
And I'm not asking you to answer that question.
And I'm not saying it that this board isn't prepared. I'm afraid that what you're taking a chunk out for everything you just put on the table, you're gonna overwhelm yourself. You have just set up what, 2, 3 workshops? For 3 separate things.
So we have
a lot of information that it's gonna be flooding at you.
No, I agree, but the AvCog is being run by someone else and who is giving us the homework, so we just need to be prepared, but we're not running those. I bring up the swap shop because a number of community members have come to me and this, but I do put it out there because I'm not sure if I'm the only one with thoughts, feelings, and concerns, then this shouldn't go there. Because I'm not in a place right now where I need to take on one more thing. So if I'm the only one that wants to put together these questions and get this, then this would need to be.
Absolutely have absorbed what I just said. It was not meant to sound like I don't think anyone in this room is not doing their job. I've sat in those seats before and have had covering of information that has to come at me, plus my job, plus my family, plus anything else that happens. And I'm gonna always choose my family and my job before I'm gonna choose the town. I'm sorry, I love you, but I got a roof over my head, I gotta do this. And what happens is I had to keep pushing things aside. And I felt very guilty not being prepared enough. So take little chunks. We have a lot on that list and it sucks to have that long list. But when you pick something, you gotta pick it, absorb it, put dates on it so that it can be completed. Because if not, it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding. You're gonna be overwhelmed. That's my big fear. You're all heading into what's our next thing that we have to do in this town? Budget.
And in order to look at this
Another
budget, we
budget.
need to collect some of this information.
Yeah.
So. Would you please see what dates they might be available for that workshop? That's all I had for other business. Is there anything anybody else wants to discuss? Okay, we first, oh, go ahead, sorry.
So we still don't have an animal control officer. And I discovered this weekend that because we don't have an animal control officer, do you know who the responsible party is for animal complaints right now?
Ding, 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 that was you.
Nope,
Oh, that's me.
it's you, the board.
Yeah.
So when I get a message from Bob about a call he got from Oxford County, he's obviously in Tennessee. I obviously went and looked into it, but I just want to make the board aware that if you could try and recruit somebody to come take on that responsibility, I don't know what else to do at this point, but I have a fear that it will eventually fall on me until something's resolved. And
Well, it should
I'm
not
just
fall on
being
you because if we are the responsible people, then until someone fills that position, if there's a call, it comes into the town office. Is that
I
correct?
know it goes to Oxford County, and Oxford County apparently calls whatever phone number for a selectman they find first. This time it happened to be Bob.
Okay. Okay. So. So as the chairman, but it would seem to me that. At this point, the four of us would need to take turns responding. To these calls. He wasn't available, so it went to you, but it should not have.
And I didn't have a problem doing it. It's just.
It should not fall.
Any other day, I'm at something.
It should not fall, but it usually. Again, you being a nice guy and
I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that, because
I was not aware of that, but we are now. So, it would seem to me that I need to make a motion that we create a schedule as to. We've got to take turns. I make a motion that we. Create a schedule as to who is going to respond to animal control issues. Second that motion. Okay. And discussion.
Do any of you know anybody that wants to be an animal control officer?
I'm gonna look.
So we don't get calls very frequently, but when we do, it's, that was, I think in the last month and a half, there's been 2 calls. One was for a stray and one was this call, which ended up being nothing, but it's just.
So could you remind us what the job description of the animal control officer is, as we all vigorously look for a candidate.
Well, if I
What
could
are we
answer that
looking
off
for?
the top of my head, I would be the animal control officer.
Or what, because we've been advertising for one, correct?
Yeah, it's been posted for
Okay,
a month or so.
while you're looking that up, yes, Viv?
Even though you've only had 2 calls this month or recently. The reason I brought up the animal control earlier is because I need an animal control, sure, I was gonna ask. Who the new animal control officer is. Or the new phone number that I would call or something.
Evidently,
I
you
need
call
control.
dispatch, Oxford County, would, if somebody needs animal control,
Right now, they would contact dispatch and dispatch would call.
so by dispatch, what number is that? That Oxford County Sheriff?
Yep, it's listed on the website under animal control officer because it's where I put in.
So that's where you would call. And it would seem at this point, they reach out to our chair, who is Bob. But as a board, we need to decide who's going to respond. And unless somebody wants to volunteer to respond to all of them, I think we should take turns. What do y'all think?
Turn sounds great.
Yes.
Responsibilities of this animal control officer. None of you are qualified.
Anybody can be an animal control officer for the first 6 months without certification.
Okay, that's what I'm like, someone's got this rabid dog and call about. You guys don't want to deal with that.
I think at that point, we respond and then call for help. But
Things like dog bites, something where somebody's been attacked by a dog, Oxford County's gonna respond with animal control. Animal control is gonna issue the dangerous dog orders, the muzzle orders, which are all available on the state's website. There's literally there's a page called Animal Control Resources, and it's got all the forms,
Manual.
the manual, everything.
The law. It's on the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry.
So anybody that's interested in actually taking on that role does not have to be certified for 6 months. And the online certification class is relatively inexpensive, and the town would pay the $50 to get them certified. But they have 6 months to do it.
so they could be hired and
Read the manual.
And in any situation where it's a dangerous situation, we would call the sheriff's department to come and assist. You wouldn't just show up. We had an instance relatively recently where someone was bit and the sheriff's department was involved.
Well, who determines a dangerous situation? Any situation with an animal, dangerous.
Well,
A
yeah,
horse,
A cat.
someone's not used to dealing with horses or donkeys.
Yeah.
That could turn horrible.
I totally agree with you. It's really up to the animal control officer, the person, the municipal representative that's filling in for that person. But unfortunately, what the town's up against is state statute says the municipality is responsible for having somebody to do that, so.
This whole definition of what a dangerous dog is, the manual is very clear. Wolf hybrids, dangerous dog, automatic.
These are the dangerous situation. They got any animal, that's a dangerous situation.
yes,
I just want to second what Peter's saying, because I typically track my own. But when it's a wildcat and I've talked to the vet and they say, oh, it might be rabies or it might be distemper. I call the animal control, and the last time, 2 years ago, I called Robert, I think it's Robert Larrabee, I don't even know the old guy. It took him over a half an hour to catch that cat. And he was like really nervous about it. So the last thing you want is a cat bite or a cat scratch. They can be just as bad as a dangerous dog.
so without having read the manual, and I have not, but it sounds to me as though we are obligated to have someone to respond. And until we hire someone, it will be a board member who responds. And then it will be up to us to be informed enough to make the safe decisions, which I would hope to be not to respond, not to get involved in an animal situation without appropriate people, but we're required, correct, Cameron, we're required to have somebody.
I have the statute. Well,
Yes,
Is there something like PPE related that would cover you, in the event of showing up and not having the appropriate tools or vehicle or?
Crabs, snares.
Right. So you do fall on serious compliance, but without the proper tools? Or does this mean you all have 6 months? If you're gonna be rotating to achieve certification?
we're not looking
I
to
don't think anybody.
fill this role,
No, yeah.
but until we can hire somebody, it sounds as though.
I have to go, so they call somebody to people that should be
Mhm.
Yeah.
the session.
Well, I don't want to speak for either Heather or Zelia, maybe one of you is interested. Becoming certified and taking this job
I
on
guess we get to
permanently,
dip our toes in the water and decide.
yes.
Were any of the neighboring towns, are they all without an animal control? Could be potential, could one of the 3 of you or the 4 of you, until we get the 5th of you, call some neighboring towns and ask if we can temporarily use theirs until we can hire somebody?
I've already reached out to one neighboring town, I never get a call back, or their animal control officer to find out if they wanted to add Buckfield, and I never get a call back.
That's just one.
Would that
They
be
come from
something?
anywhere in the state.
The like 10 towns around us use the same 3 people, and one of them just quit. So,
Called one, but there's still one left. You can't catch fish, don't go fishing. It was just-
I've heard that, and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that individual doesn't want to take on more than what they're already doing, so.
Just,
We're trying to.
I know, there's all of them.
I might suggest, since Azalea finally spoke up. It sounds like because it is pretty infrequent, if there was one person that might be interested in just temporarily filling that spot. So that there's not 4 of you, and then all 4 of you have to do all the same legwork just to respond to hopefully 1 or maybe 2 calls a month. If one person was willing to just be that person, and they could do just a little of the legwork, and then it would kind of be taken care of, and it wouldn't take up 4 of your times.
It,
So I'm gonna make a motion on.
is there someone who would like to take on this responsibility in totality until we?
I wouldn't like to, but I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think we owe her.
I'm gonna be putting it out there that we need somebody to actually fill that spot.
We're gonna have an application tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like. Social media. post-
Yeah. And there is a stipend for this position and mileage, so you can, in your advertising. So people get a stipend whether they get a call or not.
Responding, so we asked for a job description, I'm just looking at statute, responding to reports of animals suspected of having rabies in accordance with the enforcement of sections, there's all your animal control laws. And any other duties to control animals as the municipality may require. But we don't have any additional. So, you get that going for you. But seriously, I'm gonna email you this, say,
I was writing it down to look it up later.
So should Heather call dispatch and give them her number? Temporarily,
I can do it tomorrow.
Well, I can do it.
I mean,
If you think I
if
should
you
be
want
there.
to, yeah. I just explained to them it's on a temporary basis
Yeah.
until.
That's okay with you?
Yeah.
So anyone who is interested in applying for this position can pick up an application at the town office, or is there one on the website?
So go to our website and click employment at the top of the website, they can fill out the application.
It's, they can fill it out online, or if they want a print copy, they can come to the town office.
That's correct. I'm just gonna go online and print it off, but yeah.
But if someone doesn't have access to a computer or would prefer a print copy, that's how they could do that. Yes,
This is the question you had, manager, did our animal officer retire altogether from doing this or just retire from our town?
He resigned from our town because he has too much going on in the.
Yeah, his name is on a ton of towns.
Okay.
So
A lot of times these.
our local area too, so there's no one to share with, no one to ask, because it's him. Right, he's already said it's too much.
He's on Oxford Fire Department too, so he's got that, plus all the towns that he covers. So yeah, a lot of towns share. Because it's not a full-time position. I want to say rough estimate last year, there was probably a total of. Less than 40 hours worth of calls for 365 days. So I mean.
thank you for that happy little discovery, Cameron.
You're welcome.
Heather is particularly excited.
I'm
Sorry.
proud of Cameron, taking it off his plate, good job.
Poor Bob, he wasn't here to
He's in Tennessee.
volunteer.
County.
He probably will be really disappointed that you're doing it. Poor Bob.
No, I'm done.
Any other business that you
No, I'm good.
learned about? Okay, public comment period. Yes,
Long shot, but I just saw the way on the fire department. It's I cannot remember her name, but I believe she's still with the main state department, she's still with the fire department. Name,
that's okay.
the Vicky, who does animal tracking, training, that kind of stuff, for fire department, maybe she'd be willing to temporarily do it.
Reach out to her ass.
Please, no, I can do it.
Take it.
Like, I'll call big, yeah.
So if someone steps in temporarily, are they eligible for the stipend and,
We're just gonna cover it.
okay,
That's. We need the coverage.
so if someone steps up, are they eligible and says, I'll do this for until you find a replacement?
Yes.
Okay, is Heather eligible for the stipend?
No,
or-
because it falls on the select board anyways.
I don't have an answer for it at that.
Who do I ask?
Me.
Okay,
I will say I haven't had a heart, I have one, I have a heart tracks, if anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
Tomorrow.
that's, that'd be like, you would need to vote to appoint her temporarily. Or even just to appoint her until we find somebody, but if you appoint her, she's part-time. So she'd be eligible for that stipend, it's not a. It's not like she's a department head that's in control of, I don't know.
Did you think you'd be walking out of this meeting as a working control officer to them?
I never know what to expect when I come here.
so I guess the question is this something that you would like to take on until we find somebody? Or do you want to wait and see
I'm
if you
fine.
can,
I'm fine.
Cause we can wait to see if we have to wait someone else before.
Yeah, I mean, if he's gonna ask. Vicky
or,
whatever.
right, or
Yeah,
if we can find somebody else who will step in and say,
yeah,
I have experience in this.
yeah, so if somebody has experience,
Okay.
that would be better.
So, but if we can't find somebody else, then perhaps at the next meeting,
Mhm.
because I would want, if you're going to have to do this
Yeah,
for a while, I would want you to,
Mhm.
okay.
I just wanna say again, I have a couple paddlebar traps, I had some dog crates. I would be willing to go and get a call to show you how to set traps, and how to set up pets. I've got Kevlar traps, I have leather gloves, beekeeping. We can equip it. We can use that.
Okay.
It's a home, I'll help.
Sweet.
Any other public comment?
Thank you.
Probably some good videos on YouTube too.
okay. That could be a real.
Okay, if there's no, if the summer portion runs out of. Okay, next on the agenda is executive session, and I do not believe we
Mhm.
need an executive session, so, I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 8:06, what?
17, sorry, that was. No, it's not. I was just trying to help you.
At 8:17 PM.
Second, how much?
Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending. Appreciate it. Appreciate your input.
Good job.
Either one of you want to be an animal control officer?
And then when you do the point.
Or there may be somebody, I think, in the department that might.
Okay, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Advertising there.
We did-
Stipend isn't bad for, yeah,
Because of that.
I'm not even asking you.
I'm leaving the camera on for now, so you can see sides.
Thank you.
It's no, I think it's signature.
Because we see this thing, it's like, we're not asking any of these women to like go after some rabbit.
Right.
Well, just be like, we got it, we hear you, we're gonna come,
Yeah, you're a situation.
we got a situation, we're here for you.
How can we help with this? But there are some that it's, I get skunk under my thing. That sucks. Be prepared. It's a hard track. There's enough people in this neighborhood that are caught skunk before you, or the GoPros, or the dog, you know. Oh, hell, my stupid cat, my stupid dogs, they'll hop right in your cat, drive right over the. Don't be. On. I had a runner once, what a pain in the butt.
It sounds like you are.
If. Sound gladly. Say I could do it for you. But I try too much, it really has to be somebody. That can live 60, 70, 75. Oh, no, that has to be able to respond in a reasonable amount, if I'm in Massachusetts, I'm not on the back.
Planning board, maybe my grandpa Dick.
Okay, well, here they go, yeah.
Make me want to go there.
I think he'd really find his passion there,
Animal control.
yeah,
Well, now,
yeah, he's probably had his cows.
Yes.
On there, like, it's nice, maybe
Someone's. Oh, I'm doing socialists. Right, yeah. And that's what some of it is.
That's all.
Oh, Thomas,
It's okay, you take the dog, you bring it to the welfare.
Cameron, would it be easier?
But others are, it's, we say my dog, we're dog. Continue.